Alright, today we are going to build or create a boulder for battlefield scenery. Now the best thing I've ever found for making a boulder is a big chunk of pine bark, or pine bark nuggets as they call them. And when I lived in Georgia, I could walk out the door, and if I couldn't find one on the ground, I could get one out of somebody's landscaping. But I don't live there anymore, so I've had to find something, a reasonable approximation. So I found this chunk of dried up wood that I think will work okay. And I took a piece of foam, and because boulders, obviously, you don't always just see them sitting up. They're usually in the ground, partially covered. I cut out a space for my boulder to rest in. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue this into place, and then we're going to do a little painting. Alright, I've glued it into place, so what we're going to do is now get the first coat of paint on it. There will be some gaps I'll need to fill in with flocking later. But we're going to go brown with the base and dark gray, almost black with the boulder. And we're going to use acrylic paint because that will not melt the pink foam insulation like some things will. So I'm just going to slap this on roughly. I don't really even care if it gets onto the bottom of the boulder. That'll just add to the illusion that it's partially buried. And you can see here there's a gap that I didn't cut properly that I'm going to have to fix, but that will be easy. Alright, so here's our first layer of earth. Now let's work on our boulder. We want to completely cover this. And I wanted it very dark because just like when we dry brush a model, we're going to come back and do this with lighter shades of gray, lightly, to get the high points. And then all these dark places will create the shadows and things. Alright, so there's the first coat. We're going to give it a chance to dry. Come back and do a lighter layer. Alright, we've given it a little time to dry, so now let's do some highlighting. I've really lightened up the gray and just going to dry brush it. And remember, dry brushing means it's almost literally a dry brush. There's very little paint on it. And the idea is just to drag the lighter shade onto the high points, leaving the darker stuff on the low points. And so now you can kind of see that it looks a little bit like a boulder. Pine bark would be better, but this is not too bad. Now we're also going to highlight the brown area just a little. Oops, and once again I did not let my glue dry where I patched the holes. And now I'm going to lighten the gray again just a little bit. Getting most of it off my brush. And then just some very light. That's even more than I want. Take a little more off the brush. Just want to barely graze it. Alright, and then the last thing we're going to do is add some flocking, the fake grass and stuff. So we'll just put the white glue where we need it. And I'm just going to put a little on there, and then I'm going to brush it on with a wet brush to spread it out. Alright, so we will start with some bright green. I'm just going to lightly sprinkle it on here. And I'll mix in some dark green. And I don't mind if the brown is showing. Let's see here. Get some more coverage on the other side here. And then, just to be weird, I've got this flocking that's a little more coarse and has little bits of yellow in it. I'm going to put just a little bit of glue up here on this flat space. And then put just a little bit of this right there. Alright, we'll give it a couple minutes and then we will put it on the battlefield. See how it... And here is our finished piece. Turned out pretty good. And just for comparison, here's one I did a long time ago for Heroscape. I actually did this one with the pine bark nugget. And you see I just had to attach it to the Heroscape tile so it doesn't sit down in the ground like the one we did today. But it's okay for what it is. But very simple project to do. Thanks for